Hello and welcome back. This is episode 20 of my vlog series about creating the art for a 2D video game. And I'm pretty excited because 20 episodes seems like a really big milestone to me. If you're new to this channel, just know that new episodes do come out every Friday. Sometimes early on Friday, often late on Friday, but always Friday. I have yet to miss a Friday, so I'm pretty proud of that. And those of you who have been with us for a while know that this episode is a little bit out of order. So I usually show drawing footage first, and then afterwards show gameplay footage so you can see the asset that I created for that episode, how it looks actually in-game. But today's episode is going to be the other way around, because I just thought it would be fun to change things up. And so today I'm going to show you the finished assets first, and then if you like what you see, want to know how they were made, then stick around, and afterward I will show the time-lapse footage of the drawing. So what I'm going to be showing today are these magical boxes right here. So if you've watched any of our recent episodes, we've been working really hard on just the animal husbandry portion of our game. And I'm pretty sure that I've mentioned before that you can both butcher and breed your animals. However, this is a family-friendly game, and we wanted to approach those subjects in a very G-rated sort of manner. We didn't want it to be gruesome or for, children to be coming to their parents with uncomfortable questions, after playing our game. And so herein lies the solution to all of our problems. And this brilliant solution right here is called the meat machine. So cow or other animal of choice goes up the ramp. It goes into this box behind this curtain, and magically, that's the key word here for most of this stuff, magically, once it is finished, steak comes down the conveyor belt here. So I will show you how it works, because this is better seen than explained. So I'm going to pull up, I need a peasant to operate it for me. Alright, buddy, you're my guy. You're going to be my slaughterer, my butcher today. And I also have to pick the specific animal that I want to be butchered. And I would choose a bull because bulls give you 5 slabs of beef, whereas cows only give you 2. But I only have one bull right now, and I kind of need him to operate my breeding machine, so I'm going to choose a cow. And let's take you're going to be my gal today, sorry. Alright, so now she has been selected. She has been chosen. You seen that scene? I think of the scene in Toy Story. I have been chosen. Farewell, my friends. I go to a better place. Alright, in went my peasant. My peasant just went into the barn, and he's going to go fetch her for us and bring her out and put her into this machine. And while he's doing that, I would love if you admired my cluttered dumping ground of a field right here. I was clearing this whole area down here to make room for potato and corn fields, and I didn't clean up all my logs and rocks and stuff as I did so it's just sitting there. Alright, in she's going into the box. Let her out with the rope. In she goes. Awesome. Now, while she is being processed, this little bar is going to fill. But while that's going on, let's go ahead and come back to our breeding machine and get that going, because it's the same basic principle. So I'm going to open this up, because we need a peasant to run it. So, alright, buddy. You're gonna play Cupid today. You're gonna be my breeder. And, again, like the meat machine, I have to pick my specific animals that I want to breed. So we're gonna make a calf. And I wish it was that easy. Don't you wish it was this easy? I can tell you, after having 2 kids, if there was a machine that I could have just stepped into with my husband, that would have saved me a lot of time and grief. Alright, let's pick our cow and our bull. Of course, I only have one of each right now, but so they get to be the lucky parents. Alright, here we go. And I don't know if you noticed, but my bull's name is Boy. Like B-O-Y, Boy. I did not do that. That was randomly assigned, but I think it's really funny. Alright, our meat machine is almost done. Ding! Nice steak comes off the conveyor belt, and our peasant's gonna go and put it in our larder for us, so it'll be ready to use or to eat. And if we open up our larder, here it is, the 2 slabs of beef. And this says beef, a raw slab of beef that can be eaten as is or preferably cooked. I prefer cooked myself, but I won't judge you if you like your cows really, you like them very rare. Alright, so now we're waiting for our other peasant to come out. Alright, here he comes. He's leading our cow up to the box. Oh my goodness, it's such a mess down here. Normally I would have picked up all of these logs and stones and stuff and actually put them, like, in storage in one of my storage sheds, but I got really lazy, and so there's just stuff everywhere, and it will stay there for a few days if I don't pick it up. Eventually it will disappear. Alright, so female just went into her side, and he's got to go back and get our bull. And if I were smart, I would go around and pick it all up, but I'm kind of lazy. Also, I would like to draw your attention to this bit of cleverness right here. So when I was designing this machine, I did, there's a pretty universal symbol for, female and male. That part was easy enough, but I was like, what is the universal symbol for a baby? Especially like an animal baby as opposed to like a human baby. And, of course, considering that this machine can be used for any kind of animals, not just cows or... not just cows, but it can be used for chickens or unicorns or dragons or what have you. It can be used for anything, and so I came up with an egg, and I put it on a yellow curtain because it's nice and gender neutral, and I felt very clever. Alright, so now we're waiting for this meter to be filled, for our baby to be produced. magically produced. That is the key word. Alright, while he's doing that, I'm gonna start clearing some ground. I should speed this part up, but I probably won't. We recently we had a couple of more major updates, and some of them were like game-breaking sort of updates, so I had to restart my file, which means I don't have some of the niceties that I had before, like I don't have a quarry yet, and I don't have a lumberyard, which means that I have to do all of this land clearing myself. I've got to clear a big chunk of land so I can build those things, and I have to say, after having peasants for a while, I've gotten pretty spoiled. I really get a little resentful when I actually have to do work myself. Alright, so we're coming over here, which I suppose is the idea anyway, right? You're royalty, like, doing work yourself. That's no fun. Yay! Look at my baby cow! Look how cute he is! So there's my little calf, just came out of there, fresh and new. And we can take care of him. I don't know if I have a brush actually in my inventory right now. But you know what? I can cheat. We have this little cheat menu, which really helps actually. I can turn on like super tools so that I can like clear rocks and trees and stuff with like a single stroke. Anyway, it's really nice just for testing stuff. You, as in future players, will not have access to that cheat menu, but I do. Alright, so I just made a brush for myself rather than walk all the way over to the storage shed to get one. Hee brush him. Oh, he loved it! It made him happy! Isn't he so cute? Okay, so this is my little calf, whom I already love unconditionally, until he or she grows up into a cow or bull and I slaughter him. But until then, I will just lavish him with love and affection. Actually, let's find out what his name is, just for fun here. Let's open up our menu. Oh, his name is... Oh, I think this is my new one. I have another calf, actually, in the barn right now. Qual. Qual is in the barn right now, but this is Usopp. Usopp doesn't seem very happy, probably because he was just born, and he hasn't been fed yet. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that, and if you liked the process and liked seeing these machines in action, stick around, because next I will show you a time-lapse footage of me actually drawing these two machines, so I will be back in just a second. Okay, here we are back in Photoshop, and I've got that time-lapse running, so you can see how I drew those two machines. And I'm going to make the meat machine first, because I actually used a lot of the elements of the meat machine to make the breeding machine. So that really, sped up that process, because I was able to reuse, bits and pieces of that. Mainly, you see that big box where the cow or the animal goes in. I was able to use that for both machines, as well as like the curtain and the ramp. It was really just like the center elements, that sort of the console elements that I had to change up for each machine. But being able to reuse bits and pieces like that is super, super helpful, especially when you've got a project that is this big. Any shortcuts, that you can find, by golly, take them. Also, I should mention, too, that you may notice, I don't know how close attention you were paying during the gameplay, But the meat machine I'm drawing right now, does not look quite the same as the one that actually made it into the game. And I debated whether or not I was going to show this footage or just skip ahead. But I thought it would be fun to show the first pass, the first pass that we ended up throwing out. Because when I first took a stab at doing a meat machine, I was trying to do something that would be borderline kind of funny, macabre, and so I was thinking not like gory exactly, but when I thought of meat machine, I was thinking very mechanical, and so my first pass at it is a much more, much more, mechanical. It's metal, it's got electrical components, and I kind of thought, I envisioned, your cow going in, the grate shutting as opposed to a curtain, and hearing some, some sound, electrical sort of buzzings and whirrings, and with inside, that just kind of spark the imagination but don't really tell you what's going on in there. And then, of course, for the meat afterwards to come down this little conveyor belt. But when we looked over that, and I like that first design. It's totally fine. The problem with it, of course, is it just aesthetically doesn't quite match the rest. Your kingdom is very medieval. Is it, historically accurate medieval? Not even close, no. But it just seemed because I've got if you looked really closely, I've got little colored wires in there. There are buttons. There's the steam pipe thing at the top. It's very obvious that technologically this machine is in a different era than everything else. And so I ended up and it was a pretty simple fix because I already had sort of the base structure of the machine all done. Basically, all I had to do was go back and just revamp some of the finishes. And so, again, like I said, I debated. I was like, well, should I even show that first pass? But I thought, I should, actually. I think some people might find it interesting to see some of the ideas that were thrown out along the way. And, of course, afterward, I got the second pass turned out much better, and that's the version, of course, that you see in the game. The only part that I really miss that just, tugs at my heartstrings a little bit is the rust. I think I've mentioned I like doing cool textures and stuff on the surfaces. And so for, of course, the metal version of the meat machine, I made it kind of rusty, kind of grungy along the bottom. And I love doing that. And it's a small thing, but of course, once the machine became wooden and brick and stuff, the rust had to go. So anyway, the new version of the machine is not rusty like the old version was, but I'm pretty sure I am the only person who cares. So in the future, I will just have to do more metal sort of components for our kingdom that I can do, rust on. And actually, I don't know how long it's gonna be till I can do rusty stuff. I've actually been working on this week. I've been working on assets and buildings and furnishings and stuff that are going to go in your rival kingdom. And I think I've talked about them a little bit. I've shown some of the footage on one of my other videos of me drawing just some of the citizens, of that rival kingdom. But they are very wealthy, very well-to-do sort of people. And they have, their kingdom has a very gaudy, sort of over-the-top aesthetic. I've been looking at lots of Rococo sort of era furniture and buildings and art. And just everything is gilded and decorated just to the nines. Everything is just very ornate. And so I've been working on that stuff, which takes a little while. Doing that kind of level of decoration on absolutely everything takes a while. And so that's what I've been working on recently. And watching this footage makes me realize how much I miss drawing things like rust. I like rust, and I like rustic stuff. But it will be worth it in the end. I sure hope so, because it has been fun. I've been designing all this furniture to go in there's a big manor house that is in the other kingdom where Pontus and his wife Charity live, and they are, Charity looks a little bit like Marie Antoinette, and they're just, very wealthy and finely dressed, and doing their house has been a lot of fun. It still has quite a bit more work to do, but I have been filming it, so you'll be able to see, the footage once it's done. another little oops that I made when I was drawing this machine actually was I did it in too many solid parts. So most of the time I try and envision, the way the asset is going to work and how many pieces it needs to be in order for it to work properly. Because when you're doing like a 2D game, your pieces are layered, almost like layers in Photoshop. So you have like a background layer and maybe a character layer and objects layer. And so the way that you layer things determines, what can intersect with what else, if that makes sense. So like, if you have a background layer and then a character on top of the background, the character should be able to walk around on the background, no problem. But if you have something like over top of them, like a rock, they can't just like walk through the rock. The rock is a barrier. And so you have to think about those things, as you're designing these assets. And for this machine, I had it thought through part of the way, at least. I needed a box. I knew the curtain needed to be separate from the box because it was going to have to be able to raise and lower, to let the animal in. I also knew that the ramp was going to have to be separate because the animal can't go through the box, but it needs to be able to go up the ramp. So I had to be able to walk on the ramp, but not through the box. And then the thing I wasn't thinking about, though, is I did just like that sort of center console with the big, the gears, in the middle, and the conveyor belt. I did that as one separate piece. And so that was my original design, was those 4 separate pieces, the box, the ramp, the curtain, and then the conveyor belt. But I ended up having to go back and just rework it a little bit. It wasn't too bad. I had to just like, I had to redraw some little bits and pieces of it. But in order for the meat to be able to come down the conveyor belt, I had to have that center console area with the gears, and the chains and stuff. That had to be separate from the conveyor belt, so that way the meat could come down the conveyor belt, passing behind the console. And I don't know if that all makes sense, but I do get, the more I do this, the more of a feel I get, for just basically the way the game works and the way I have to arrange things to make things look the way that we want them to look. So that was something I had to backtrack and do a little bit. But it wasn't, the final product looks, in my opinion, really good, so it was definitely worth the extra step. And by now, of course, if you're watching the footage on the screen, I've already moved on and I'm putting together now the breeding machine. And like I mentioned before, that uses a lot of the elements that the meat machine uses, which made it really easy, actually, to put it together. Because I was basically able to just take the boxes there that are on the brick stands and the ramps, reuse those. I just had to redo the design on the curtain, but I could still use, the line work from the curtain. And so I had, just duplicated that, so I had 2 of those, and then I just had to fill in the middle bits. And like I mentioned before, of course, it took me a little while, but I finally decided to put a little, like, cracked egg there on that center curtain, and I think that looks pretty good. I also added just, like, a hint of a furnace over the top of that curtain there. I figured there's probably some kind of a fuel that's powering this machine. I mean, we've already established it is not electric, but maybe something other than just, like, fairy dust is powering these machines. And maybe at some point we'll address that and add some kind of a fuel for these. But I wanted just to add a little element of, realism, quote unquote. And so I added that little grate there, and there's a bit of a glow behind. And so you can imagine that maybe something's burning, that's powering this machine, that's making all these little animal babies. So we're getting to the end of my footage here, and I just wanted to thank you for sticking through another episode with me. Episode 20 feels like a really big deal. So thank you for watching this episode. Of course, I will be back next Friday, as always, with more fun drawing and gameplay stuff. And until then, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.